everyone please rise? We're going to start. Yes, we're going to. We're going to open the Planning Commission meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, roll call.
Edith Keller.
Absent excused.
Whitey Simon. Here. Christine Holcomb.
Here.
Harold Bain. Here. Mark Borchardt. Here. Tom Kozel. Excused.
Absent excused, yes.
Robert. Here. Robert Music. Keith Bell.
Here.
Kathy A. Schweiker.
I'm here. Still. Okay, thank you, Whitey. Item number 4, approval / amendments to agenda. Hearing none.
Well, even though I wasn't here, I have an amendment to, oh, the minutes, I'm sorry.
Minutes.
Never mind, forget I said that.
I will, don't you worry about that. Number 5, approval of minutes.
There we go.
Now you go.
I was not here, but I was listed in the minutes as seconding a motion that needs to be changed. I don't know
What
who
page?
seconded it, but it was not me. Page 1,
Yes, under approval.
about midway down, approval of minutes.
Ooh,
Motion by Holcomb, second by Fell.
Keith, you were doing a good job. I was for
Oh.
not being
Phoned
here.
it in, didn't you?
I did.
Called it in.
Skyped it.
so we don't know who did it. I'll fix it.
You
Thank
probably
you.
have it.
She'll figure it out.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular planning commission meeting of January 22nd, 2020 with the correction as stated or requested.
Okay?
The only thing that I had has something to do with the grammar and the syntax. Board representatives report says, Borchardt stated that the township board will having discussions. Either we add be having or have discussions. It's under page 4, down at the bottom. Board representative report.
Thanks, Sue's frantically trying to figure out what we're doing.
Will be having, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll amend my motion unless there's other,
Discussion or corrections or?
Second.
I didn't amend it yet.
Go ahead.
I'd like to amend my motion.
Well, wait a minute. She got
Second
it.
the motion for minutes.
Or-
We haven't quite done it.
Nobody yet.
We're working on that.
And the minutes were seconded by Borchardt, by the way.
Borchardt.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to amend my motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting to include the corrections as stated and requested.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's approved. Item number 6 is new business. We have nothing under new business. So I'm going to move on to item number 7, which is unfinished business. Under unfinished business, we have item A, which is approval of written special approval land use permit. I'm not going to recite all the letters, but the address is 7317 Dyke Road and a bunch of other descriptions.
Madam Chair, based on my previous reasons, I would like to be used again from this portion of the meeting.
Okay,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll call you when we're ready, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Shouldn't be too long. Just going to tell you. All right, we should have received via email and or however we received it, a draft of the
I got an email, I think. Yes?
special land use permit.
Email, right?
Okay. Okay. Does everybody agree with what's contained in that? Because there's signatures that need to be added to it. Rod, go ahead. Did you get an email?
Yeah, the purpose is just to confirm that this reflects what your motion and findings were at your January meeting, January 22nd, 2020 meeting. So if this is in fact reflective of what your findings and your motion for action on this item is, then you would just vote to authorize the chair to sign it. And then because this affects the site plan, the applicant would have to amend the plan to delete the items that were not included. And then the approved permit would be attached to that site plan. So the site plan we just check that administratively, just to confirm that it reflects what your permit has.
And there's a permit fee for that?
Well, it's just a special land use permit, not a site plan fee.
Okay.
No, yeah, just a special land use permit.
Kathy, we did have some things that were,
Nope, there's no discussion. We're just the board.
well, there's some errors on there.
Nope. Thank you. Go ahead.
Did the applicant get a copy of this? Is that what you're saying?
I believe it was emailed to the applicant, yes.
Okay.
So I'm addressing the board members.
That's all I had.
Do you agree this is what we,
Everything looks conducive to what we talked about.
and we voted on and approved?
Yep.
Yes.
We voted on it.
So I guess I'm hearing you unanimous, yes?
Yes.
So then
Yes.
I would say, everybody that agrees with it, yes or no?
Do we need a motion?
Move
Motion.
that.
Well, make a motion, yeah.
Move that the chair is authorized to sign the Clay Township, St. Clair County, Michigan special land use permit for outdoor dining and live entertainment at 7317 Dyke Road.
Second.
Sue, did you get that? I'm sorry.
Who wants it, Chris or whoever?
Either way.
Okay, Sue? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. So Rod, I believe, has the
So there's a copy for you to sign,
a copy for me to
and
sign.
that'll go to Cindy to hold on to until the plan is.
And then also the applicant sign, I believe, right?
Right. They can do that when they pick it up.
Okay.
With the actual full set.
All right, here you go. It will be in the office with Cindy Belch.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 7B is boathouses. How do you guys want to handle this?
I think at this point, we're just gonna come back.
Yep.
I think we've had our discussion.
Yeah.
We-
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We need.
You can come back.
Yes. Sorry. I saw you peek around the corner, thank you.
I thought I heard it was over, but.
Yeah, good hearing. No, that's true.
Better than Mark's.
Better than Mars. Ooh, that was mean. Okay, so boathouses, we're gonna come back next month, right?
Right.
Okay, are we gonna do the same thing with the shipping containers?
Correct.
Okay. So that was quick. All right. Item number 8, master plan.
Oh, God.
Eric, I got this one.
Okay, so we sent out the vision statement, the draft, first initial draft of that, as well as the goals, objectives that correspond to the vision. I think for tonight, we're just going to focus on the 4 vision statement paragraphs and pick up the goals and objectives later. So how it's structured is the vision is obviously an important statement to provide. They'll be at the forefront of the plan. And then the goals, objectives, and eventual action items should relate and be under the vision statement, and those will be important implementation acts that after the plan's done that certain departments try to carry forward, you carry forward. They could be ongoing things, so these will set the stage for the details of the action items. So the vision broad statement is a healthy and beautiful community planned, preserved, and managed based on these principles. So we have 4 categories which we think addresses in a holistic manner what the plan will, the information that will be within the plan. So the first is residential character. These are not really in any priority, but I think for any community it's important to address that your residents, your residential houses are really the basis of your community and should be maintained.
Is it okay to ask a
Sorry.
question during this presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hey, under open and efficient transportation access and circulation, it's stating that importance of dynamic traffic messaging and contingency plans should island access issues occur. Can that also include and future alternative island access?
So that's under the goals and objectives, if you go to the
Mark,
access.
may I add, and to you too, if you're looking on page 1,
Yeah.
it also says, acknowledge the need for reliable ferry access to both islands. I would suspect that that should be intra-waterway transport.
Okay.
And then that would alleviate that.
I don't know about waterway.
Well, I think I've seen that in some legalese document that concerns this.
So you want some language other than ferry?
Well, that would be too restrictive.
Exactly.
That there is no future.
Exactly.
So we need to find some different language to.
Well,
replace the
and
word ferry.
it is an waterway transport system.
Right.
So under open access, goal 3, objective A, the statement that ties to the vision is support reliable ferry access to Harson's Island and Russell Island, including the shared use of ferry boats and docks. So we can,
I think that still should be intra-waterway
not
transport.
specific to ferries.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too restrictive.
The reason that it was mentioned is if we're going to pursue an alternative dock, if there was an issue with the ferry, or an alternative ferry boat, say, not to say that this could be utilized, but the ferries to the north, if there was a way to use that in an emergency scenario, the ferry term would tie into trying to work with where we are now, but that is more broad. It would be helpful to use intra-waterway or some kind of.
Well, I'll go ahead and say it. My trust is the bridge, so.
That should
Right.
be, that should be a vision, or not, it should be?
That should be in the vision.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Secondary way off the island.
And so there might, so this is something we want to investigate too, is are there informal contingency plans that residents are already using on the island, such as a shuttle system, or is there something that just happens naturally, or that's pre-planned, where if there's an issue, there's a shuttle that can bring people from the ferry to where they're living opposite the island?
That was used only one time or twice when somebody had a function at Tajmul Marine, and it was a, in Italy they would have called that a grande casino. It was very difficult to, no. It was very difficult, and it was too large a bus and all these other things. But we do have a bus that brings a student to the ferry every day, I believe.
Yes, she does have, she lives on the island with the bus, so that.
And the school bus goes across with the bus driver.
But at the same time, what if the bus driver doesn't get there? We have no contingency.
So you could have backup, you want to assign, this is things we'll talk about in
Yeah,
operational.
I think there has to
but
be
to
something,
formalize that in the
definitely.
plan would be good, and would be something to track.
But I don't complain. This year, we haven't had a winter yet.
By June 10th, it's not March yet.
Don't jinx us.
Don't jinx us.
We looked outside yet.
Okay.
So we'll make that more broad, not specific to ferry only.
Ferry is too specific.
So we'll stay on the access. So Clay Township will foster ways of improving multiple modes of access for residents and visitors of all ages and ability throughout the township. This includes direct, safe, and comfortable routes for pedestrians and bicyclists through both the mainland and island portions of the township. Given the unique situation of having two islands, so we talked about that. And then lastly, the township will support continued infrastructure and operational improvements to regional mass transit and the promotion and support of blueways through the township in order to leverage the benefits. So the structure of this is, the first sentence is very broad. This is a good thing for everyone. And then it starts to work towards non-motorized, which we have minimal involvement really in roads because we're a township. So what we're really talking about is the Bridge to Bay Trail that at some point when that gets further along, we'll be involved in looking at routes that people are using now, especially related to the bicycling community. So that's kind of the broad.
And
trying
right
to
now,
capture
safe
everything.
bicycling on M154 is touchy.
Touch on M29 also.
Yes, yes.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into the non-motorized plan about
Right.
what your feelings are with that.
What, as far as the transit line that runs on M29,
That's Blue Water, Port Huron buses. I know they stop at
They stop at
the hospital, and I don't know where else they stop. They have dropped off people at Kroger's.
My
I
understanding is
think they'll stop wherever we want.
if you call them and you
They'll
pick up or
stop.
drop off, they'll stop.
Yeah.
And they go all the way to Baltimore,
Yes.
23 minutes.
To Myers, right?
Yeah.
They go to Myers.
So the role with the planning commission would be to support continued infrastructure and operational improvements. So that can be small or big, depending on how you want to encourage the use of that particular bus line. It could be coordinating land uses around transit stops. It could be working with employers for connecting employees that use it to transit. So it could be small scale things like that. And then also in the county Blue Ways plan, there was a mention of improving the marketing of the Blue Ways. Maybe a brochure or some kind of more, it's kind of under the radar. So they thought specifically in this area that the Blue Ways were under marketed by the local community. So that is a carryover
I don't
from
think
the
they're
county.
been marked, are they?
They,
The trails and
Pardon?
bike paths?
some of it is marked, some is not, and they used to do a lot more, I think, in prior years. It's sort of slowed down because they contact organizations to see what they could put as a destination into there, and I haven't seen that in a long time.
No, there used to be a lot of bike.
Right.
So these are things that, locals are probably aware of where the kayak launches are, what the Blue Way trails are. But for outsiders or people that the master plan is new information to them, this would be more of a tourism, like a pure Michigan type initiative, but at whatever scale you want to pursue. But it's lower in the vision statement too, so it's it's at the bottom of the priority as far as the vision, but it's included just because it's coordinated with the county. So going back up to residential character, so the first statement is to maintain, support, and enhance varying residential areas based on the character and desires of each area. So the maintain, support, and enhance is really the range of basic maintenance to really however broad you want to be. But the character and desires of each area acknowledges that you want to do public input for ongoing maintenance, substantial changes to neighborhoods, to work with each of the unique subdivisions or residential areas to make sure that what the township's doing is what they want to see there. The second sentence, protect areas from negative external impacts of other uses. That's obviously something that's important to this body through zoning. And then foster ways to improve multiple modes of access for residents throughout the township. And lastly, to plan for and encourage a variety of housing types for all people at different stages in life. So that is, again, something that you're involved with through what you're allowing through zoning, accessory dwelling units, things like that you've worked with previously. So the resilient outdoor lifestyle is really a key statement. With our public input that we did previously, we talked about the balance of a residential community and a recreation community as far as the impacts of tourists or seasonal residents on people that are full-time, such as the RV situation that we had discussed on Harson's Island with people using those full-time in residential areas. So that would be included in this to So starting off, it acknowledges the obvious aquatic-based natural resources and recreation that goes with that, and have evolved over a long period of time and will continue to be protected. So that acknowledges that you have these large state-owned natural resource areas that are historic-based, and there is involvement with the DNR and the state, and this coordination with the township to continue to utilize St. John's Marsh and other areas as an important asset to the township. So that kind of acknowledges that big item that's unique. And so the second sentence, the township will continue to ensure that these regional amenities enhance the livability and viability of township residents, businesses, and other stakeholders. This includes the ability to withstand and emerge from environmental threats and challenges, the reasonable use by visitors, and improved access for recreation, observation, tourism, and education. Additionally, there will be a continued township focus on adding value and meaning to the public realm through community events and neighborhood scale revitalization projects. So that really highlights the township park. So that's a great example of a good project that adds value to residents, to the township. So that would set up for future projects like that, whether it be a pocket park in a different neighborhood or whatnot. So recreation at all scales, from the state-owned property, large township scale, down to neighborhood scale recreation area. And then the fourth and last item is prosperous local economy. The township's proximity and ease of access to Detroit and Port Huron, together with its abundant water access, make it a desirable location for doing business. The township will look to strengthen existing businesses, which include several historic industrial uses and essential services, and attract new businesses that align with the need, vision, and goals of the township and adjacent communities. So the Fruit Street industrial area kind of acts like the industrial outer area for Algonac historically, where it's in your jurisdiction, but there's obviously a relationship there between the township and Algonac. So this discusses coordinating what that area looks like going forward in the future, making sure that you're coordinating that with both communities. Again, we talk about zoning and potential impediments to desirable development, and the township will also seek to support the DDA and the many residents that are employed outside of the township through coordination. So the DDA is something that could probably use some more interest or proactive. We don't really know a lot about it, but we're trying to learn more about that as we look at the focus areas, San Souci specifically. So, I'm sorry, Pearl Beach specifically. So that will set up action items to start to look at the DDA more on a more continuous basis, rather than kind of letting it hang out there.
So you talk about San Souci and part of the DDA. I've already been to the DDA of San Souci. There's a little excerpt of the law that says if you're separated by an indigenous piece of water, that you can become part of the DDA district. But nobody's had a meeting yet for me to come by and look at that. Because it says that in their little, they did some formation of a law. I have it, I don't have it with me. Because we can't get San Souci part of the DDA because they say it's not in the corridor.
You usually can't have two DDAs in the same community.
Right, you can't have two DDAs, but if you're separated by an indigenous body of water, they said you can actually add that onto it because we're naturally separated. We're not physically, I mean.
I'm not aware of that. That sounds like something for the township attorney to look at.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
I don't have it with me, but I do have it, and I'm waiting for the next DDA meeting to talk to them about it. Because it was done right here in Michigan, because I just happened to look up the laws. Rod, I'll email it to you so you can look at it.
Yeah, thanks.
And so as we continue with the plan, we can come back to these at any time and tweak them and add things and take things off too. So, but this is where we're starting. It's more lengthy than your vision statement now, and it has, I think, some better information that relate to the plan than a very broad, simpler statement. So that's all I have.
So where do we go after this?
We read this.
Well, once we read this, like next month, are we gonna be back? What do we do?
We need to
Yeah,
add things to this.
You need to add and come back with suggestions. You can email them to us. And then
We
we'll try
email to you? Okay.
try to get a,
Through the chair again.
Through the chair.
And then to us, once you've collected everyone's, and then we can update.
Actually, email them to Cindy. We have-
send to Cindy.
If you can
that's
update
fine.
it, if we can update it prior to the meeting, then we can go through the updates together rather than the comments if we get them.
Okay, so
before.
if any of the members have any suggestions, whatever, email Cindy Babish. She'll get it to your office, and then we'll come back and have a,
And she has a copy so we can reference this.
she should, yes.
You can also look at the goals too,
Yep.
since they're related, and provide comment on that if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, appreciate it. The hard work that's going into this.
Goal number 1, A.
All set? Okay.
Residential
I'm
code.
going to move on to item number 9, ZBA representatives report.
Well, we basically talked about boat houses.
I heard that.
That's what we talked about, that Blue Water had denial because they were in the wrong place. And when we rezone something, we need to come back to us.
Those are us, right?
Yeah, Heiserlicks, yeah. That's about it, this boathouse was the main topic.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. Item number 10 is board representatives report.
I pass.
Yes.
That's too easy.
Wow, there's nothing going on that's exciting, or not.
Nothing pertaining to the planning commission.
All right, okay, item number 11 is chairperson's report. I believe in the packet, there was a memo from or maybe not, from David Struck. Did anybody get that besides me? You did. Okay, hopefully you read it. They're asking if one of us board members would attend their, wait, he's shaking his head. St. Clair County Master Plan update. It's like 4 times it'll be 4 times for the year.
You want to know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
So when are their meetings? They
Uh,
don't specify when they are.
Don't know.
Quarterly.
They're quarterly, but I don't know what day.
Can we be a little more specific?
I could find out.
Where's your phone number?
Not that I'm interested, just curious.
How about we start with, is anybody interested?
They're in Port Huron.
I would assume yes, that's correct.
And, well, if you could get the length of the meetings and the dates so that we can look at our respective calendars to see where we have them already scheduled.
Okay, if we didn't have anything scheduled, would you be interested or not?
I could go.
Okay, anybody else in the same category with Whitey? Well, I see not much happening in that.
I kind of,
Okay, what I will do is I'll contact,
Fine with the dates and times.
I can't say the length is gonna be at least.
I know, a couple hours.
Yeah.
Don't want to go 24
Well,
hours.
it's like land
12
use,
hours.
mobility, recreation, hazard, mitigation.
Well, we should at least be there listening and finding
Somebody
out what
should.
they're trying to do. Because I used to go to some of their recreational stuff, and until they just announced that we were getting this park down the road, that's the first time they brought something down this way.
Yeah, because they usually cut it
You,
up.
you had a squeaky wheel, you go there.
Okay, well, how about I do this? I will find out dates and times, I will email Cindy, and she can send it out as and it does say, I guess I wasn't paying attention,
One.
well, like, and please contact me by February 28th, but I'm sure she won't be, or they won't be upset by,
I think that's about this week, right?
yeah, it is, went by fast. Okay, I don't think I have anything more. I think I already mentioned that we're going to have a training here for Planning Commission. ZBA is going to have a training in Baltimore, so that's covered. I'll move on. Go
And
ahead.
we go in April.
Or there's still
Before the meeting.
April 14th was the tentative date from Baltimore, so if we get feedback from you that that's okay, we can try to set it.
I think Cindy said she was going to check and see if the room was available.
Okay.
So we should have some information maybe next week. How's that, okay? Okay, item number 12 is planning commission members' comments.
I don't think you want to hear my comment because we should eliminate those shipping containers from any consideration.
You're entitled to your comment.
We'll have more opportunities to comment when we draft.
I would tend to side with that, to be honest. It's going to be a long one.
Pardon?
I said I would tend to side with you on
Thank
that
you.
one.
Welcome to our next major topic. We always have one.
It'd be like the recreational trailers. Once they're in, they're in. You can't get rid of them.
I'd also like to say in a different note, sorry, thank you to Gary for showing up, I appreciate it, and hope to see you again. And when we were talking, I made it very clear we very much want his input. If there's things that we've done that don't work, please let us know through Cindy and vice versa. If we have questions, we can send it to Cindy, and you're more than welcome to attend our meeting.
Yeah, Gary, we should see you more often.
You bring coffee, donuts, whatever.
Yeah, well.
Cookies, so, but thank you very much for showing up, we appreciate it. Okay, wait a minute, planning commission members, any more comments? Hearing none, I'll move on to item number 13, public comments. If anybody in the public has anything they want to say, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and just remember the rules that govern it. One more time, anybody in the public who wants to make a comment, please come forward. All right, seeing no one doing so, I'll go to item number 14.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Appreciate it.